And then today's question, Sensei Bobby, for you is how much do you think one's natural physical attributes impact their ability to execute karate movements?
Quite a bit, quite a bit. Because if you don't know left from right, and you can't walk a straight line, then karate can be very challenging for you. And maybe judo or jiu-jitsu would be a better fit for you.
Mm.
But karate is very challenging, because you're using four elements. Okay? Left hand, right leg, left leg,
All together.
all together at one time.
Do you think there's a physical advantage for, say, example, when you look at many of the grappling arts, it seems like if you're shorter and stouter, that you seem to have an advantage. That's not always true, but do you think that is true about karate, that like if you are taller, like you're tall, or does it matter? A person, can they be shorter and stockier and still be, as effective?
I believe so. I believe it's all a matter of strategy also. A shorter person could maybe get up under you much quicker and work the inside, okay, as opposed to a taller person who knows how to jab and stay on the outside and punch, on the outside and kick. But then there should also be an advantage to where if you get inside, maybe a throwing would be a good strategy to use. So you're using all those different things at one time. You got to figure out which is the right tool for the job.
Yeah. And so, for example, does karate offer anything for, say, example, once we get inside, or is it all just kind of a pugilistic at a distance?
Well, you got to remember now, karate includes more than just kicking and punching, okay? Because once you get inside, you can always use a high block as a weapon. You can also use an elbow. Once you get inside, you can also use an eye poke or a spear hand to the throat. So all those things are very effective once you get inside.
So it seems like in, let's say, modern competitions, we've seen, let's just take MMA, we've seen some karate practitioners do quite well, even despite the fact that they can't use a lot of the techniques that we practice because they would be considered illegal. What are some of those techniques that are not able to be used in, let's say, an MMA style fighting that maybe people wouldn't be aware that karate teaches?
Knife hand to the throat, palm heel to the nose, gouging the eyes, grabbing the hair, thumb in the eyes, grabbing the ears, elbow to the top of the head. All those in competition, all those techniques are very, very much illegal. Even though they're effective, they're still illegal in competition. But on the street, it may be necessary to use. So you have to practice all of that.
So maybe, in your opinion, have a lot of the karate schools remove those techniques because they think they're quote unquote too dangerous, and that's why maybe there's some perception that karate is not a true self-defense or a viable self-defense in today's time?
Yeah, effectively, basically those techniques that some students or some instructors don't teach is maybe because of the students that they have. I wouldn't teach that to children.
Right.
But to adults, I would. But I wouldn't do that stuff. I wouldn't teach that kind of stuff to children because they're most likely will try to use it, and it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
So I think that the instructor has to know their students and give them the appropriate technique to use for their situation.
Now, kind of focusing on adults, if you're teaching these types of very lethal techniques, what are some ways maybe you can advise to some instructors out there how they could teach those without, necessarily injuring each other? How would one go about, like, for example, you talked about elbows to the head. I know we do elbows to the back of the neck. Again, all quote unquote illegal stuff in most competitions, but nonetheless, we practice those and we learn those. What would be your advice on how to introduce that if that's not being done?
Yeah, just go slow. Go slow. See, there's a blueprint that you follow. Every situation is different. So if you find yourself in a situation of where you have to do a shot to the throat, then what you do is you practice that. Okay? You practice that technique. If you do an elbow to the side of the jaw, then you practice those techniques. But you have to practice them safely and also remind the student that they are not to hurt their partner, because if you do, then you're not going to have anybody to work out with. So you have to take responsibility for your fellow students. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I hear you saying that in that it's about repetition.
Correct. It's about repetition, because you want timing, and you understand timing, you understand distance, and then you want to understand also the effectiveness and of the power that you deliver the technique in. What do you do after you just back fist somebody to the nose and a shot to the stomach? You know, so if you practice that, that's why you have bags. Boom, boom, right? Back fist, reverse punch. You know, and if you know anything about anatomy, you'll know that if you crack somebody in the nose and a shot in the solar plexus, that could mess up the day. That could mess up the person's day. So that's why you really do have to be careful with how you train your students.
Okay, great. And last follow-up question to this is, when you look at arts like boxing, judo, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, it seems that they have the advantage in that their practice is repetition, as opposed to what people see. And when, for example, if they mimic a person doing karate, you know, they do this thing about punching to the air and this, that, and the other. What role do you think sparring and drills that involve contact within karate should be playing today? That it wasn't absent in the past, but seems more absent today. And what has been the fallout of that?
Yeah, because you can't practice in the air and then go out in the street and expect to have a positive outcome. That's why sparring is very important, because once again, it teaches you timing, foot movement, how to use your distance, how to close in, how to move out. So that's why sparring is very important. But at the same time, you're not hurting the person that you're sparring with. Now, if you use the same type of sparring attitude that you use in the street, and you know that this is a serious situation, then somebody out there in the street could get hurt real bad.
And I noticed that it seems like at the Thomas Academy that you introduce sparring not only early, because you see kids sparring, but also I've seen that they don't wear gloves most of the time.
Right, because you're not going to walk around with a pair of gloves.
Did you get pushback from the parents or anything from that?
None,
kind of like,
none
wow,
whatsoever. None whatsoever. Because my son and I tell all of our students, hey, you are responsible for this person's well-being. They didn't come in here with a broken tooth, so you can't let them leave with a broken tooth. So that's why you have to be respectful, you have to be careful. So if you have that kind of control in the dojo, you can also have that kind of control in the street. Now, out in the street, if something happens, something go down, you got to let it all out, go for it. But in the dojo is not the place where you go for it.